All In Sports Network. We love sports.
Okay, happy Tuesday. Welcome back to All In Mizzou, a daily Mizzou sports show hosted by myself, Davis Wilson, brought to you by Rogue Media. Today we're talking Missouri's defense and the Tigers' 42-31 win over Kansas on Saturday. If you missed it, we talked Mizzou's offense yesterday. You can find those episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you want. They're there. We got into what worked against Kansas's defense. Today, we're going to get into what worked for Missouri against Kansas's offense. Now, this defense is a unit that I think a lot of people were excited about heading into this year because Drinkwitz went out and got some big-time transfers on that side of the ball, but the Tigers also returned a bunch of talent on that defense as well. So when you put those two together, it seemed to be pretty exciting. Missouri went and got Josiah Trotter from West Virginia. He was the Big 12 Freshman Defender of the Year. Damon Wilson Jr., transfer edge from Georgia. Stephen Hall, a cornerback transfer from Washington State. Santana Banner, a safety from NIU. Jalen Catalon, a former All-American safety who had stops at Arkansas, Texas, and UNLV. All those guys coming in, joining, like I said, some good returning production. You bring back all your top three cornerbacks from last season. That is Toriano Pride Jr., Drayden Norwood, and Nicholas Deloach. You bring back two of your three safeties, Marvin Burks Jr., Dalen Carnell. You add Catalon to that mix. You bring back Chris McClellan. At defensive tackle, you also bring back Marquise Gracial, a younger guy, Jalen Marshall, Sterling Webb, Darius Smith, who transferred into Missouri before last season from Georgia, missed all of the previous season with a knee injury. He's back. He played pretty well against Kansas. And then you've got a linebacking crew that Trotter joins. You've got Tristan Newsom in his sixth season in college. You've got Nicholas Rodriguez, a younger guy who has a more pronounced role this year. And you've got Khalil Jacobs, who people were really excited about throughout camp. He got hurt. I think it was a collarbone injury or shoulder or something like that. He got hurt about halfway through last season, missed the rest of it. He's back. He's looked good. So this defense, there was a lot to be excited about, and they went out and they played pretty well against Central Arkansas. But again, that is Central Arkansas. It's nothing too complicated when you're playing against Central Arkansas. But Kansas's offense is a lot more complicated. They have an offense that is built to confuse a defense. They do a lot of pre-snap motion, two or three guys motioning at once. They do different shifts. They do different formations. They have a quarterback, Jalen Daniels, who can beat you with his arm and his leg. They've got two running backs, Daniel Highshaw Jr. and LaShawn Williams, both of which have the ability to run well. And Missouri shut both of those guys down. And you've got a couple receivers and a tight end who are good and had two good games to start the season. Again, Missouri really did a good job of limiting those guys. So in this game on Saturday, it was going to be all about how do you handle Jalen Daniels? How do you handle everything that Kansas does before they even snap the ball? And I think Missouri did a really good job with that for the most part. There was on Kansas's first touchdown of the game in the first quarter, you did see Missouri kind of get drawn in by that motion in the backfield before the snap. I believe Jalen Daniels sent, I think it was his slot receiver Cam Pickett. I think he sent him in motion, and Marvin Burks, Missouri's safety, was kind of drawn in by that, left the middle of the field wide open, and Kansas was able to score a touchdown on a long pass to the middle. Other than that, I do think Missouri did a pretty good job in this game. The defensive line, I think, was at the focal point of everything that went well for Missouri this week. it's such a deep unit. Really, that whole front seven is very deep. But that defensive line really stood out to me as I rewatched it this morning. I think it was pretty dominant. Missouri finished the game with 22 quarterback pressures, 16 quarterback hurries, 2 sacks, allowed just 28 rushing yards, which for a while ESPN was counting it as 3 total rushing yards because they were subtracting all the yards from the safety, the long safety I guess that was it was a loss of 25, but they're not counting it against the rushing total anymore. So they allowed 28 rushing yards. I thought the defensive tackles did a very good job of plugging holes, eating up 2 blockers, whatever they needed to do. I think they did a good job. There were some issues in the secondary. Overall, I think the secondary was okay. I'd say it was the weakest part of the defense this week. There was some opportunities Kansas had to exploit some of those weaknesses, and there was either drops or overthrows by Jalen Daniels that kind of bailed the defense out. So, but they did seal the game with an interception. The secondary did. Dalen Carnell picked off Jalen Daniels to officially put a bow on the win over Kansas. Overall, though, I think the secondary has a lot of room to improve. Some stats from the game: Josiah Trotter had 2 tackles for loss. Tristan Newsom had 1. Marvin Burks Jr. and Chris McClellan each had half a tackle for loss. And Zion Young had 1 as well. Zion Young had a sack. Tristan Newsom and Chris McClellan each had half of a sack. And Jalen Catalon, the former All-American safety, led the team in tackling with, I believe it was 6 total tackles. I think getting into it, we'll start with just going over some plays that, I rewatched this defense this morning in this game. I rewatched it. And there were a couple plays that stood out to me that were big moments for Missouri. Obviously, there was, like I said, there were some negative moments. There were some blown coverages. There was mistakes, like on the touchdown where Marvin Burks kind of abandoned the middle of the field. But there was also a lot, obviously, that this defense did very well. They only allowed 24 points in the game. 7 of Kansas's 31 points were scored on a fumble 6 in the first quarter by the Jayhawk defense. So Kansas offense only put up 24 points. Kansas's offense put up just 251 total yards. Like I said, 28 rushing and 223 passing. Only had the ball for 19 and a half minutes. Missouri had the ball for 40 and a half minutes. But here's some plays that stood out to me. The first one came early on in the game in the first quarter. It was 13:49 left in the first quarter. You've got a 3rd and 1. This is Kansas's first drive of the game. They've got it to a 3rd and 1. Excuse me. Missouri's defensive formation, they run a base kind of 4-2-5 nickel type defense. This time they had 5 defensive linemen. So it was, a 5-2. Some people will still call that a 3-4 because the 2 9 techs, the 2 guys outside, which I believe in this situation were Zion Young on the left and Nate Johnson, a transfer from App State, I believe, on the right. They were standing up. So technically those can be classified as linebackers. So it's kind of either a 3-4 or 5-2, however you look at it. These 2 guys both did not drop into coverage. So I kind of saw it more as a 5-2. But you plug these, that's 5 against 5, although Kansas had a tight end in there as well. Maybe 2 tight ends actually to help. Like I said, you have Zion Young on the left edge. You got Chris McClellan, Marquise Gracial, and Jalen Marshall, 3 defensive tackles. And then you got Nate Johnson on the other side. And this play was Josiah Trotter burst through the gap and brought Highshaw down for a loss, forced Kansas to punt back to Missouri. This was a very big play and a big kind of statement by this defense. And obviously it was Trotter who got in there and made the tackle. But if you look at the replay, you'll notice that it was Jalen Marshall had to kind of eat up two blockers. He had to deal with the tight end and the left tackle. And that allowed for Trotter to have a big hole to run through to blow this play up. The left tackle was working on Marshall. So was the tight end. Neither of them could get to fill the gap that Trotter ran through, and he came down. He brought the running back down for a big tackle for loss. Marvin Burks Jr. was also involved in that play, but I thought this kind of set the tone for what the defense could do, especially against the run. Kansas really just didn't have very much success against the run. That was Trotter's first of 2 tackles for losses in the game. Let me see here. The second play that stood out to me in this game for the defense came in the second quarter. Let me find it here on my screen. This play was at this point in the game, Missouri is down. They're trailing 21-13. After going up 6-0, Kansas scored 21 unanswered points. Missouri's in a hole here, 21-13. Kansas just went on a long drive and punched it in for a score. Missouri did respond on offense, but now the defense needed a big play here because Kansas was making it look pretty easy on the previous drive. So this play, it's 1st and 10, the first play of the drive. Missouri brings a little bit of pressure, 5 rush. Nicholas Rodriguez is a blitzer out of the linebacker position. His blitz sort of, wrecks things up for the offensive line. Kansas's left guard was supposed to pull and come block Zion Young off the right side. But Zion Young went in there untouched because the left guard tripped. So Jalen Daniels had no time. Zion Young closed in on him really quickly. And he knocked the ball loose. And this is when that safety happened. I was talking about the negative 25-yard safety because you had Damon Wilson flying in here and swatting the ball into the end zone, which I think is definitely illegal, but the refs didn't see it. The refs had a difficult day. They just got relieved of their duties this week because of a play call they missed on a kickoff. So these Big 12 refs had a tough day. This was one of their missed calls. Obviously, it worked in Missouri's favor. But Wilson slaps this ball into the end zone. A Kansas offensive line falls on it for a safety. But as I was looking at it, you have kind of 2 guys for Missouri. You have Nicholas Rodriguez and Sterling Webb both right there to recover it. So I'm wondering, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but if Damon Wilson doesn't slap this ball into the end zone, and I mean, it was going to be recovered by Missouri because you had Wilson there, obviously, and you had you had Nicholas Rodriguez and you had Sterling Webb right there to recover it. So if one of those guys gets the ball, you're set up inside basically the red zone. And there's in all likelihood, you probably have a chance to score a touchdown there. With the safety, you get 2 points, obviously, and get the ball back. Missouri kicked a field goal on that next possession, so that's 5 points. So really, if Missouri recovers this ball normally, I think there's a pretty decent chance they're able to score, at least a better chance, and that's 7 points, and that's more points. I talked about yesterday how Missouri really could have scored a lot more points. And this is another instance where they probably could have, although I'm not going to fault Damon Wilson for trying to make a play. He did make a play. The refs didn't see it, so that's that. But I thought the blitz was nice. Zion Young came flying off the edge untouched, which I'm sure is just such a terrifying sight for any quarterback. Jalen Daniels has good legs, but he couldn't get away. It was too late, and he dropped the ball. Missouri gets a safety out of it. They get the ball back. They go and kick a field goal. At this point now, it's 21 to 15. 21 to 15. The field goal makes it 21 to 18. The third play comes in the fourth quarter. Missouri had a couple big plays in this quarter. Let me find it. There we go. So on this situation, this is a 3rd and 8. The play before this, Jalen Daniels had Emmanuel Henderson streaking down the middle of the field on a deep ball, overthrew him. It would have been a touchdown if he could have put it in the right spot, but he misses him completely. This is the first of 2 misses consecutively. This next play, Daniels misses him again. Henderson is being covered by Stephen Hall. He kind of runs right by Stephen Hall on a quick little double move. Missouri blitzes here with Khalil Jacobs. Khalil Jacobs is able to shed a block and at least make Daniels think about his presence. Like he blitzes, he sheds off the running back blocker, and then he's heading for him. And I think Jalen Daniels probably lets this ball go a couple, maybe half a second before he wanted to. If he's able to really set his feet and throw it, it's hard to imagine that he overthrows the same guy twice in a row, but he did because I think the pressure probably threw him off a little bit. This is something I think that Batoon did a really good job of. Corey Batoon, the defensive coordinator. I think he dialed up the blitzes pretty well. Late in the fourth quarter, he was blitzing a lot on that 92-yard Kansas touchdown drive. So that, I mean, he was being aggressive, and I think that's always fun to see. It didn't really work on that drive, but here it was a game-changing play because if Daniels is able to put this in Henderson's hands, he's one-on-one because of the blitz. I think there's a good chance it's either a huge gain or maybe even a touchdown. So the blitz there works. Khalil Jacobs gets to him, bothers him a little bit, and that's that. The fourth play, also in the fourth quarter, a little later in the quarter, we've talked about him already today. Josiah Trotter, the son of NFL linebacker Jeremiah Trotter. He's got the same celebration and everything. But here it's 2nd and 5. Missouri is leading at this point 35-31 with about 3 minutes and 45 seconds left in the game. Kansas in this quarter had gone on a big drive and gave this defense trouble. But in this situation, they handled it very well. This is a huge play. They get 5 yards on first down, so now it's 2nd and 5, like I said. You've got, I don't think they blitz here. They're bringing 4 men. The linebackers drop back into a zone. There's pressure coming, so he has to dump it off to a running back. Chris McClellan, number 7, the defensive tackle, beats his man. He's coming for Jalen Daniels here, so Daniels has no choice but to kind of dump it off to his running back, who is met immediately by a streaking Jeremiah Trotter, who drops him. This Trotter kid is so physical. He flies across the field. He's one of those linebackers that is just so fun to watch wherever he is on the field. And you see it's just a textbook tackle. This is a loss of 2. This is a second tackle for loss. Sets Kansas up with a 3rd and 7, which is going to be a play that Kansas fans won't forget ever, because Jalen Daniels puts a great throw into the hands of Emmanuel Henderson, who's wide open, and Henderson drops it. Like I said, this Missouri secondary, there were blown coverages at times. There were times where the Kansas receivers just beat them. But they got lucky with some bad throws, some bad drops. And sometimes you need a little bit of luck. But again, I think this was set up by a really nice play from McClellan getting pressure on 2nd and 5, and then Trotter being able to drop him for a loss. The last play of this game of the game that I'm going to talk about is the second turnover of the game for the Missouri defense. The first was that fumble. This one, Missouri is already up 42-31 with about 1:15 left in this game. Kansas has 3 timeouts, though. So a quick score for Kansas means that it's at least possible, and you can at least have an opportunity, to try to win this game if you're Kansas. They're at the 40-yard line, their own 40. They're kind of driving a little bit at least. Missouri only brings 3 guys on this 1st and 10. They bring 3 rushers. It's Damon Wilson, it is Chris McClellan, and I believe Darius Smith. All 3 of those guys beat their men. Jalen Daniels was kind of holding on to the ball a little bit long, but all 3 of those guys got back to the backfield. Darius Smith was the one right in his face, forcing Daniels to make a bad throw away. He tried to throw it to the sideline. It was off his back foot, a bad throw, and Dalen Carnell was able to make a really nice catch, get his foot in, and it was an interception that ended up sealing this game for good. This game was over officially when Carnell made a really, really nice catch. And the replay of it, you kind of see him diving and dragging that foot at the last second to make it a catch. So, yeah, I think this game overall was a nice game for Missouri's defense. Like I said, the secondary is there's still some stuff I want to see them improve, but there were also moments, good coverage. I thought Drayden Norwood was pretty decent in coverage. If you look at PFF, Pro Football Focus coverage grades in this game, Toriano Pride, Drayden Norwood, and Khalil Jacobs were the 3 best for Missouri. And there were some guys who definitely struggled, but it's a long season, and these Kansas receivers were quick and not easy covers at all, especially when you blitz like Missouri kind of did in this game. They blitzed often, leaving these guys sort of on an island. And I think that's kind of what you have to do when you have a quarterback like Jalen Daniels who can beat you if he has too much time. A lot of the mistakes he made last year when he wasn't very good for Kansas, there was pressure, and he kind of just went ahead and made a bad throw. So, all right. Let's talk about more of this Pro Football Focus stuff. Some of these grades are interesting. To me, the highest overall graded defenders in this game are Marquise Gracial, the defensive tackle. He played 22 snaps, graded out at 80.2. He had 2 tackles in this game. He was also, spoiler alert, he was also Missouri's highest graded run defender with an 88.1 run defense grade. The second highest graded defender in this game was Georgia transfer Damon Wilson Jr. He played 29 snaps. He had a team high of 5 pressures. He had a grade of 78.3. He was also the highest graded pass rusher for Mizzou with that 78.3 grade. And the third highest graded defender of the game here for Missouri was linebacker Nicholas Rodriguez. He only played 15 snaps in this game, but he had 2 tackles. He was good. His overall grade ended up being 77 on the dot, and he was the second highest graded run defender with an 87.2 grade. All right, to run defense, I already mentioned how Marquise Gracial and Nicholas Rodriguez are the 2 highest graded players in this category, but the third guy is the guy we've mentioned multiple times today already. It's Josiah Trotter, who played 37 snaps. He had a run defense grade of 85.9. Like I said, he had 2 tackles for loss, 3 tackles total, and 1 pressure in the game. And then the pass rush grades, Damon Wilson was 1. Like I mentioned, Zion Young had a nice game with the sack, the forced fumble. He had a pass rush grade of 74.1. He had 3 pressures, 1 sack, 1 hit, 1 hurry. And Darius Smith, that defensive end who transferred in from Georgia, not this year, but the year before, he missed all of last season with an ACL injury. He's back this year. His pass rush grade was 73.9. He was tied with Damon Wilson Jr. with 5 QB pressures. He had 4 quarterback hurries, 1 quarterback hit. A good game for him as well. Jalen Catalon was the only Missouri Tiger defender who played all 50 snaps in this game. Dalen Carnell played 42. Dre Nord played 40. Let's see. Coverage grades, I already mentioned those. The defensive tackle rotation was interesting to me. Chris McClellan and Marquise Gracial got the two starts. McClellan had played for 37 snaps while Gracial played 22. Jalen Marshall played 9 snaps. Sterling Webb played 24 snaps. And Braylon Henderson played 4 snaps. So it seems like Missouri feels pretty good about 3 of these guys. Chris McClellan, Marquise Gracial, and Sterling Webb. And like I said, Jalen Marshall only played 9 snaps, but he was good at times, especially in that big tackle for loss early in the game from Trotter. What else do we have here before we get out of here? I think that, I'll go through some other stats. I like these stats. Let me see here. So far this season, the Missouri defense is 16th in third down percentage allowed at 21.7%. They're tied for 27th in turnover margin with +2, 35th in rushing defense with 91 yards per game, and 26th in total defense. Next up, they've got a Louisiana unit that we will talk a little bit more about later in the week. Let me pull this up. But yeah, this Missouri defense, they've got a lot of exciting players. They're still putting it all together as well. This Louisiana offense that they played only scored 12 points against Rice, 34 points against McNeese. That game is at 3 o'clock. I think Missouri's defense is going to have a lot of fun playing against Louisiana. Probably will be at least semi-similar to what we saw against Central Arkansas. Louisiana is a much better team than Central Arkansas, but I think Missouri's defense is going to be able to have some fun in this game. And then it is South Carolina. You got another very mobile quarterback in Lenora Sellers who killed Missouri last year, especially late. I think that this is going to be a very, very exciting test for both these teams. The Mayor's Cup, Columbia versus Columbia. I saw that this is a night game on this Saturday, and I'm thinking that it's pretty likely that game day could come to Columbia, Missouri that weekend. So that would be pretty cool. Other notes on this defense. What do we have? I was worried. I was definitely worried about how the secondary would fare against Cam Pickett and Emmanuel Henderson. I think that, neither of those guys were super productive in the game. I think a lot of that, like, there was production left on the table for that Kansas offense. But, Emmanuel Henderson only had 3 catches for 29 yards, and Cam Pickett had 2 for 18. Deshaun Hanika did kind of give this defense a hard time. He had 6 catches for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. That seemed to be Daniel's favorite guy. But yeah, it's one of those things. It was just a fun game. The offense, really the defense wasn't on the field all that much, especially in the first half. Kansas only had 4 offensive plays in the second quarter, because Missouri's offense was, going on these long sustained drives. Also, Missouri's defense, one of the 2 drives they played in the second quarter was a 1-play turnover. The other one was a 3-and-out. So that was a huge turning point in this game because Missouri was down 21-6 at this point. They outscored Kansas 15-0 in that second half. And then obviously in the second quarter, they outscored Kansas 15-0. And in the second half, they outscored them 21-10. So outside of a first quarter that really wasn't the defense's fault, Missouri dominated this game and left some points on the board. I think the defense, especially these guys like Josiah Trotter, who keeps making plays throughout these first 2 weeks, like him, Damon Wilson. I think Darius Smith, there was that one really dumb face mask call on Darius Smith in this game where he grabbed him by the shoulder and his head whipped around so it looked like a face mask, but he didn't touch his face mask at all. That was really a poor call that led to Kansas points. Unfortunate for Darius because that was a nice play he made. I think it was a tackle for loss. Watching that back this morning, it was like, golly, that is not good. And then I saw the news about this officiating crew that Missouri-Kansas had on Saturday has been taken off the schedule for next week. So they're essentially suspended. I don't think the officiating was great for either side. So, it's you can't blame the officiating one way or another, I don't think. But certainly that call against Darius Smith was unfortunate because it was objectively the wrong call and it led to Kansas points. So unfortunate there. I think that's all I have on this defense. I really like the way they played. The unit was, it seems like those guys are flying around and playing really well. So I'm excited to continue watching. PFF, Pro Football Focus, has this defense graded as the 14th best in the country with an 89.4 grade behind SEC teams, Kentucky, Texas, and that's it for the SEC. The run defense grade nationally is also 14th with a 91.3 grade behind Auburn, Florida, Kentucky. That Kentucky defense, man, and Georgia. Let's see. Pass rush. Where's Missouri here in the pass rush? They're 23rd in the country in pass rush grade. Their coverage grade, I assume this one will be a little bit farther down. It's 30th nationally. And their tackle grade. Well, I had to click on the next page. They're 51st. So not bad, but the overall defense grade is what matters most. That's 14th. That is pretty good. Pretty good for this Missouri defense and Corey Batoon. They've only allowed 37 points through 2 weeks. That is good enough for 62nd in the country. And like I said, 7 of the points in this game were not the defense's fault whatsoever. But yeah, I'm excited to keep watching this unit play. Also, I didn't talk about the offensive overall grades. They're 5th overall in Pro Football Focus offense grade. They're 89.5. Their pass grade is number 1, a 93.2 passing grade. Pass blocking, they are 18th. Receiving grade, they're 2nd, 83.5. Their run grade is, 39th. And their run block grade is 48th. So this unit is all over this list I'm looking at right now. And they're going to have a really good opportunity to put together another nice performance against Louisiana heading into a huge SEC matchup with South Carolina, not this week, but next week. Come back tomorrow. We're going to be talking more Mizzou football. I'm going to try to get a guest on maybe. We'll see what happens. And then on Thursday, we'll start gearing up, looking ahead for this Louisiana matchup on Saturday. Thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it. MIZ.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.